Well, I've gotten very interested in air, and air is all around us. So it's something you don't think about because it's invisible. But locally, this huge gas corporation is proposing to put in a fracked gas compressor station right near where I live. And now I'm finding out what comes out of this compressor station. Well, one of the things that is emitted, and it's called 1,3-butadiene. It's something that the compressor station company admits, in part of their application. They have to tell you what is emitted from the gas compressor station. And this is one of the toxic chemicals. As you can see, it's a hydrocarbon by its formula with the carbon and a hydrogen, but it has consequences to humans that live nearby. Irritation to eyes, nasal passages, neurological effects such as blurred vision, fatigue, headache, and vertigo. And there are acute effects as well as chronic. Well, one of the chronic effects is cardiovascular disease, arteriosclerotic heart disease, and effects on the blood. Now, this is just one of the toxic chemicals that the gas compressor will emit. And here's another one. It's called acetaldehyde. And again, you learned this in your high school chemistry, that it's a hydrocarbon, and it has hydrogen and carbon with the double bonds. But this one actually has effects on the health, pulmonary edema, coughing, and chronic effects of similar to alcoholism. And I'm just mentioning a few of the effects. There are a lot more. Here's another emission from the gas compressor station. Usually they don't build these near people. They're usually in 100 to larger than that acre sites with no people around. But this one in the Fore River Basin, which is in Massachusetts, this one is a half a mile from 950 families. And acrolein causes eye irritation and nose and throat irritation. And then this one is very high in the air already. So this one is benzene. And benzene is already in the ambient air. And this has been one of the big issues with trying to prevent the gas compressor from being built, is that there's already a high level of benzene in the ambient air. And even though the company says that the benzene that is going to be emitted is up to the standard of the state, they will not be adding the benzene that's already in the air with the benzene that is going to be emitted from the proposed compressor station. This one causes dizziness, headache, unconscious, irritation of the skin, eyes, upper respiratory tract, disorders in the blood, aplastic anemia, which is a precursor of leukemia. And I'm especially interested in this one because it causes leukemia in children. And I have joined a group of people who are fighting this proposed compressor station. Here's another one that the company admits will be released. It's called ethylbenzene. So you can see these are all hydrocarbons, and they have health effects. This one has its effect on the respiratory system, the throat, the chest, irritation of the eyes, and possible effects on the blood. And then there's formaldehyde. And I'm concerned about this one in particular because it's already high in the ambient air. So there's this regulation that the Department of Environmental Protection, their regulations are that they will not include in the decision making of whether to grant an air permit to this large Goliath of a company, Enbridge. They don't add the two together. They only consider the formaldehyde coming out of the compressor station, not the formaldehyde already in the air in the Fore River Basin, which is already very high. And formaldehyde, I mean, if you remember your high school biology class, the frogs, remember the frogs? They were in these big plastic containers floating in formaldehyde because it's a preservative. And it smelled bad, right? And it gives you eye, nose irritations. Menstrual disorders and birth defects have been found in animal testing. So this one is particularly, should not be ignored by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. And apparently they're doing just that. They have given their approval, and we're just appealing the approval. I don't know where that's going to go, but we're in the fight. This one is emitted from the compressor station, and it's naphthalene. Naphthalene can actually cause cataracts, confusion, anemia, jaundice, convulsions, and even coma. The next one that's officially in their documentation, I mean, do we believe that these are the only ones? There could be more, but they're not saying. Propylene oxide. This one causes eye and respiratory tract irritation, coughing, pulmonary edema, and it's also a central nervous system depressant. So all these chemicals that I am showing you today are released from the proposed compressor station. And its air quality affects all of us. And this is a local issue, but when you think of it, regulations for air quality are now being lowered by the EPA. So this is going to affect the state, the nation, and also the world. This next one is toluene, central nervous system dysfunction, fatigue, sleepiness, headaches, nausea, cardiac arrhythmia, and depression. Severe depression as an acute, headaches, difficulty with sleep, possible growth retardation, and the last official emission from the gas compressor station that they will admit to in their application are the xylenes. And this is a hydrocarbon too. You can see its formula. And it will irritate the nose and throat, the gastrointestinal organs, skin, and the chronic effect, that would be long-term exposures, would affect labored breathing, increased heart palpitation, severe chest pain, abnormal EKG, and possible effects to the kidney. So the standards for air quality differ from state to state. And I was shocked to find out that Massachusetts standards are so low, that they allow levels of pollution. There are levels of xylenes, toluene that are allowable. So these regulations are now being even lowered to affect and help the industry rather than the humans.
I just recently saw that the chairman of the Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee, this is a guy who President Trump has appointed, he used to work for the fossil fuel industry. He is now in charge of clean air. And what he has done is he has removed all the scientists from the Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee. And he has wanting to change the regulations so that more toxic chemicals can be released. So this is all the ones that the compressor station emit. Now I did want to go over some of the ones that are already found in the Fore River Basin, and there are so many. And it's really a problem because as I said, the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, they don't care whether methanol is present. And it is. They don't care if vinyl chloride is present. And it is. It's not being taken into account. They're not using any measurements for trichlorofluoromethane, and it is present. It is measurable, but those are not being accounted for in the decision-making process. Now, acrolein is present in the Fore River air right now. And if you remember, this is one of the hydrocarbons that is also released by the gas compressor proposal. So acrolein is going to be there double. We have trichlorofluoroethane. We have N-hexon. These are present in the ambient air, which are being ignored. We have 2,2,4-trimethyl pentane, and the numbers refer to the locations of the carbon atoms. So even though the formulas sound very imposing, these are just names to show the structure of the chemical. Like this one, cyclohexane, you can see the carbon is arranged in a circle. You can see tetrahydrofuran. This is present in the air that we breathe today. The structure. These are all affecting the health. We don't know where these are coming from. The sources are the industries that are nearby, and there are 10 industries nearby, but there's no way you can pinpoint where each toxic is coming from. But the reason I want to show you this is that there's already so much pollution in the Fore River Basin from the industries that are present, and from the 36,000 cars that go over the Fore River Bridge each day, diesel emissions. Acetone, these things are toxic, and there's already a lot of sickness in the Fore River Basin. The group that I'm working with, we are collecting stories of people who are already sick. There's a toxic legacy there from the history of industry there. So we don't want any more. There's enough. There's this 1-dichloroethane that you see going up. And methylene. Oh, this methylene chloride. This one, citizens did their own testing. We bought our own canisters.
A canister is a scientific piece of equipment. It's like a little jar, and you open them up, and the air can go in, and then you either test for an hour or 24 hours, and then you send that canister to the lab, and methylene chloride is way, way high in the Fore River Basin. So this is already pretty polluted. 2-butadiene, we found that. Now, when we brought our data to the Department of Environmental Protection, they refused to accept our data. They said that was citizen data and wasn't to be accepted because, you know, we probably would have had a gas can open right next to our canister, you know, that we would have done some finagling of the data. Far from that, no. In fact, we had people who stayed with the canisters overnight so that there would be no, like a dog knocking it over or somebody, just the chain of custody was absolutely perfect. So my last one is 2-hexanone, and they're all toxic. It's all about the breath. It's all about the breath.